Okay, so the rumor on the hill is that Canon is about to announce the R3. Essentially, its reply to Sony's Alpha 1 that they have not only announced, but also released for professional shooters. It's the professional pro body of the mirrorless lineup. And it's sort of an interesting thing to see because the R5 and the R6 were already very impressive to start with. And what makes it even more interesting is that Nikon did the same thing not like a week and a half ago with the announcement that they're going to be working on the Z9. Now, with the R3 and the Z9, the data on them is very, very little. From a spec perspective, all we've heard from Nikon is that it's going to be a stacked sensor and it will have 8K video, which I guess is good if you need 8K video. But it's probably overkill for most people, but for people who want it, they'll be willing to spend the money to get it. However, now that Canon has jumped in with the R3, you have to sort of wonder what's going to end up happening. The Olympics were delayed, so they're right around the corner, so we could have all three camera bodies facing off during the Olympics to try to show which camera is the best for photography. Now, here's some things I think are going to happen. Number one, I think we're going to see 45 megapixels minimum on these cameras. I suspect that 60 is going to come in there. I also suspect that we're going to see somewhere around 20 frames per second. And mainly that's so that you get sport shooters are super happy. And if you're able to do 8K video at like 24 or 30 frames per second, doing 45 or 60 megapixels at 20 should be doable, although again, how many pictures you can take off at a burst might actually be limited. The other thing I think we're going to see is that these cameras are not going to have flippy screens on the back. They're going to be designed to be bulletproof, so no fully articulated screens, no tilt screens or anything. It's just going to be flat in the back because their target is professional sports photographers, and we're going to see definitely some amazing EVFs. I'm expecting to see EVFs that have almost zero blackout. I think that's probably a given. And if there's any blackout, I think they're going to have a hard time explaining that one. I expect we're going to see pretty much everything thrown in there, like the kitchen sink. You're going to be able to see things like where you can like dial down the camera imagery settings. So you could take like different crop factors in the camera naturally, so that depending on what your output is, you can just simply fire them off. Raw JPEG shooting, obviously. But I think you're also going to see stuff like illuminated buttons so you can see what you're doing in the dark, and probably some very impressive battery specs. All of these are going to have vertical mounts on them, and they're going to have a lot of battery space in there. Now, I'm quite excited to see what's going to end up happening, but I'm also looking at saying, okay, cool on Canon's part to jump into the foray, but what does that actually mean for all the other cameras that are being developed, all the other lenses that are being developed, and the same thing with Nikon? Because both these announcements are not announcements saying we've worked on it and it's coming soon. It's not announcements that are going to be saying, hey, here's the body, you can buy it today or pre-order it and you can get it in a couple weeks. It's more along the lines of, we're going to be working on it. It's eventually going to show up. And as I said, the Olympics are right around the corner. Perfect time to drop a camera, because I think both Canon and Nikon were thinking of doing this for the next Olympics, and we're kind of shocked when Sony, out of the blue, nobody knew this was coming, went boom, Alpha 1. Read it and weep. So this is something that I, as a photographer, am interested in, because while I know I'm not going to buy it, it's beyond my budget, it definitely tells me sort of that right now in the mirrorless systems, Sony is absolutely killing it, and everyone else is sort of playing a little bit of catch up. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a concerning thing, because it means that, as I said, usually these cameras, the pro type cameras, get announced for the Olympics because they are focused on sports photographers. And to a certain extent, sports videographers as they, get more and more advanced. But now that we're seeing it where they're being announced now, I'm like, are they going to rush this to market to be able to hit the Olympics this year, which were originally supposed to be last year? Are they going to be rushing it to market in order to be able to say, here we go, to stop the bleed from digital SLR users over to the Sony system? Oh, and is this camera going to be having little foibles like overheating and other little things that we've recently seen sneak into these cameras because of the large sensors and demanding video requirements? I expect not, but I think we're about to see which camera company is able to actually deliver on their promises in a timely manner. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top, but let me know below who you think it's going to be. And if you are actually considering buying one of these cameras, again, are you going to go for the R3, Z9, or the Alpha 1? And if you are switching from one brand to the other, let me know as well in the comments, because I think that right now is the perfect opportunity for people to switch from their digital SLR brand over to their mirrorless brand. And depending on their needs, it may not be the same camera company. I think we all know where my next video is going to be coming with that little hint, but you'll have to check out the next video, probably right here, once I finish filming it. That's it for me today, and I'll see you later.